Welcome to Communicate to Lead, the podcast that empowers leaders and aspiring leaders to communicate with clarity and impact. I'm Keely Belton, CEO and successful entrepreneur, and your host for today. I'm here to equip you with all the essential tools and strategies to master effective communication and lead your team to success. As the founder and CEO of The Tailored Approach, my goal is to empower you to be the best leader you can be. So sit back, relax, and join me in today's episode as we dive into the art of communicating like a true leader. Welcome back to Communicate to Lead. I'm Keely Belton, and today we have a compilation episode of key factors and insights I often share with my clients about strength in communication. Grab a notepad and enjoy the episode. In my work with hundreds of leaders, I've noticed that most difficult conversations go wrong before they even begin. Why? Because leaders jump in without absolute clarity on what they're truly trying to achieve. Before you walk into any high-stakes conversation, you need to be crystal clear on three things. Number one, your intention. What's the real purpose of the conversation? And I mean the real purpose, not just what's on the agenda. Are you trying to build alignment, address a concern, or create a shift in behavior? Number two, your desired outcome. What does success actually look like? Be specific. Better communication isn't an outcome. Team members actively sharing updates in weekly meetings. Now that is an outcome. Number three, your stakeholders' perspectives. This is where empathy meets strategy. How will they receive your message? What's at stake for them? Really get clear so that when you walk into that meeting, you have all the information you need to do a stellar job delivering your message. I once had to challenge a boss's vision in front of our leadership team. I knew I was right, but I also knew that how I handled those 10 minutes would define my career trajectory. Here's what makes these conversations truly high stakes. Number one, what I call the ripple effect. Your words will impact not just the immediate situation, but the relationships, team dynamics, and future opportunities. Number two, the time pressure. Unlike regular conversations, you often can't say, let me get back to you on that when you are dealing with a high stakes conversation. Number three, the power dynamics. Whether you're speaking up or speaking down the organizational chart, these conversations test your leadership presence. And lastly, number four, the emotional weight. These conversations often carry personal significance for everyone involved, not just you. But here's what most leaders get wrong. They focus entirely on the words they use, the data they present, or the arguments they make. Well, these are all important. They do not determine success in high-stakes conversations. What really matters is what I call your leadership presence, the ability to align three critical elements: your message, what you're communicating, your mindset, how you're thinking about the conversation, and number three, your manner, how you show up in the moment. Credibility is built before you even open your mouth. It's built through consistent follow-through on commitments. Do what you say you'll do every time. Active listening that makes others feel heard, not just waiting for your turn to speak. Balancing confidence with humility, being strong enough to admit what you don't know and being okay with that. And lastly, using both data and stories to make your point. Numbers convince and stories persuade. When you need to address performance issues or behavioral concerns, get specific about the impact of their actions. Lead with care, not criticism. That's how you win them over. Bring concrete examples and a clear path forward. So, for example, instead of saying your communication needs improvement, rather try, I've noticed that in our last 3 team meetings, your messages about project deadlines weren't clear, which led to some missed deadlines. Let's talk about how we can address this together. The key in giving tough feedback is to start with specific observations, connect behaviors to impact, offer partnership in finding solutions, and end with clear next steps. When presenting controversial ideas, remember to acknowledge current successes before suggesting changes. Present both benefits and challenges, and have a clear implementation plan and show you've thought about the risks. You've heard it a million times, but it's worth repeating. Stand tall, shoulders back, head held high. Now, this doesn't mean being stiff or rigid. Think of it more like embodying inner strength and confidence. I often tell my clients to imagine a string gently pulling them upward from the crown of their heads. It's a subtle shift, but it makes a world of difference in how you come across. Next up, eye contact. Strong, direct eye contact is essential for building trust and connection. But there's a fine line between engaging and intimidating. The key is to hold someone's gaze for a few seconds, then briefly look away before re-establishing contact again. This creates a sense of warmth and approachability. Avoid staring down someone because that's more intimidating than it creates connection. Something that you might not consider as part of body language is your voice. Speaking with a strong voice is one of the quickest ways to convey confidence and authority. In this case, vocal variety is your friend. You can use pitch, pace, and volume to vary your voice. So whether you speak loudly or whether you speak softly and you pull people in, what you want to do is you want to vary that all the time. That's how you keep your listeners, your audience, your team engaged when you are having a conversation with them. Whether you are leading a meeting, whether you are delivering a presentation, you want to keep your vocal variety in mind, or at least keep it top of mind when you are presenting, leading that meeting. One common mistake I see time and time again with my own clients that I see when I'm attending conferences is closed off posture. This can look like crossed arms, hunched shoulders, or even avoiding eye contact. It sends a message of disinterest or defensiveness, even if that's not what you intended to say. So to counter this, consciously open up your posture, uncross your arms, and make an effort to engage others with your eyes and facial expressions. Think about the leaders who inspire you. I bet they all have one thing in common. They can paint a picture of the future that makes you want to be a part of it. This isn't about grand speeches. It's about making complex ideas simple and compelling. Here's a technique I call the before-after bridge approach. Before, acknowledge where things are now. After, paint a picture of where you could be. What could the future look like? And then lastly, the bridge, show the path to get there. So it's before, after, and then the bridge that connects the before to the future or to what you want to finally achieve. For example, instead of saying, we need to improve our customer service, try saying, right now, our customers wait an average of 48 hours for responses. Imagine if we could respond within 2 hours. Our satisfaction scores would soar and we'd stand out in the industry. Here's how we can make that happen. And then give them the action steps. What needs to happen? By when does this need to happen? And who needs to make this happen? There you have it. Before, after, bridge, approach. Are you consistent across different platforms and contexts? So whether you are in a team meeting, whether you are in a town hall, whether you are facilitating a workshop, or perhaps you are showing up at an employee resource group, are you showing up consistently? When you are at a conference, are you still the same person? Or are there variations of you? And if there are, that's not a problem. But you need to ask yourself, is that the way you want to show up? I had a client last year who prided herself on being an innovative leader. Yet her team meetings followed the same rigid format every week. See the disconnect? You can't say, I'm innovative when you want rigid format exactly the same way, nothing new, nothing changes. Small inconsistencies like this can erode your brand's impact. So you want to really think about, how am I showing up? If I have this particular value of being innovative or of being creative or of being strategic, am I being strategic, innovative, creative in all the different contexts? One of the most powerful ways to communicate your brand is through what I call the show, don't tell approach. I'm sure you've heard about this at some point. So think about it this way. Anyone can say they are innovative or collaborative, but the real impact comes from demonstrating these qualities through specific examples. Let me illustrate this. Instead of telling people you are innovative, share a story. And here's an example. Last quarter, I noticed our team struggle with project handoffs. I implemented a new digital workflow that cut our processing time by 30% and became our new department standard. Do you see how much more powerful that story is than simply claiming or declaring that you are innovative? When we are not 100% confident about our message or how it will be perceived, we tend to keep adding information in the hopes that somewhere in that verbal flood will hit on the exact point that will resonate with our listener. I see this happening frequently with women leaders who feel they need to establish their credibility by demonstrating just how much they know. The irony is that over-explaining often achieves the exact opposite effect. Have you noticed how uncomfortable pauses can feel in conversations? Many of us ramble to fill those gaps, perceiving silence as awkward rather than powerful. Leaders, especially those with expertise in their field, often feel responsible for providing complete information. You want to make sure you've covered all the bases, addressed potential questions, and demonstrated your knowledge. But here's something crucial to understand. Rambling significantly affects your credibility as a leader. When you can't communicate concisely, people might wonder if you can think clearly. They might question your confidence or even your competence. Research in communication psychology shows that concise speakers are generally perceived as more authoritative and confident. Before preparing any content, ask yourself, what is the one thing I want my listener to know, feel, or do after this conversation? Why does this matter to them and not only to me? And lastly, what potential obstacles or objections might my audience or listener have? With these answers in mind, you can start preparing more purposefully. And remember, becoming more concise isn't about limiting your expertise or passion. It's about distilling your brilliance into its most impactful form. When you communicate with clarity and purpose, you demonstrate confidence in your message, mastery of your subject matter, and respect for your listeners' time, which are all qualities of an exceptional leader. Studies in social cognition show that we form impressions of others based on two primary dimensions, warmth and competence. As a leader, you need to signal both. But here's where it gets interesting and where many women leaders face a dilemma. Research shows that women are often perceived as either warm or competent, but rarely both at the same time. This creates what researchers call the double bind of female leadership. When we project warmth as women, we are often not seen as competent leaders. When we project competence and authority, we are often perceived as lacking warmth, which can lead to likability issues or penalties. The key is understanding how you use your presence to communicate both dimensions simultaneously. That means both warmth and competence. Many women leaders I work with struggle with maintaining comfortable, confident eye contact, particularly in high-stakes situations or when speaking to senior leaders or executives. The fourth presence leak is self-soothing behaviors. These are the little movements we make when we're anxious or feel uncomfortable that telegraph our discomfort to others. For example, playing with jewelry, adjusting clothing, touching your hair, tucking your hair behind your ear, rubbing your arms or your hands. And then lastly, the fifth presence leak is what I call space surrender, giving up your physical space or position of power. This includes backing up when someone enters your personal space, moving your materials to make room for others, even when there's already adequate space, standing off to the side in group settings rather than positioning yourself centrally, physically leaning away from the table during meetings, or leaning back in your chair. If you're recognizing yourself in any of these presence leaks, you are not alone. We've all done it. We've all been there. These patterns are incredibly common, and they often unconscious habits we've developed over the years. The good news is that they are relatively straightforward to address. Thank you so much for joining me on Communicate to Lead today. If you found this episode helpful, please let me know on LinkedIn or Instagram. You can find the links in the show notes. Until next Thursday, my friend, I am Keely, reminding you that great communication is the foundation of inspiring leadership. Keep learning, keep growing, and remember to communicate to lead.